Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm here with Ben Settle. Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing, Ken?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Just to put a timestamp on this for future people who will not believe that this actually happened, but it really did. We're in May 27th, 2020. I don't know, what is this, the second and a half month of a lockdown that was supposed to last 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And now still has no end in sight. So yes, it's really true. Those people of the future that are listening to this, it really did happen. So we could talk about a whole bunch of things. Let's talk about, let's talk about lifestyle.
Okay. That's a fun one right now.
Yeah. And I remember you had asked me, maybe it was this last summer, about some end of the world advice. And
yeah.
I was kind of feeling lazy at the time, and instead of going through the 12-point plan, I just sort of distilled it down to two things. And I said, one, make sure you have a place that's far away, a second place. You don't have to live there all the time, but make sure you have a second place you can go to that is not a city and not a congested suburb. That was point number one. And make sure you have a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And I think that would have worked even for this.
Well, you know what's funny is that I think that conversation came about that just this last February, because I was selling this guy's, how to get out of debt type thing and how to get your finances in order type stuff. And I didn't even know this stuff was going to happen with the COVID nonsense. And it's funny that we were talking about this like 3 weeks before that happened. And I was looking back, I'm like, I don't know if we were just like, I don't know if that was just a timing thing or Ken's just a prophet or what, but there you are.
Yeah, I think about this stuff all the time, and let's talk about the content creation business, or really better, the content marketing business. And there probably is even a better name for it. Maybe you'll tell us. But I know you do this, and I aspire to do it as well. When I'm creating advice for people, especially because this is business advice, I take it deadly seriously. Because I used to tell systems seminar faculty members, our run up to the system when we had private meetings before the seminar, I said, guys, this is as serious as being a doctor, because there are families that are going to depend on this advice. They're going to take it and put everything they've got into it, and it better be the right thing, better be good advice. So I've always tried to do that. I've always tried to make sure that whatever advice I give, regardless of whether the sun is shining or whether the world's on fire, that it's solid advice that's going to work under any circumstance.
Yeah, that's always good.
And so I guess I had the benefit, I guess, of when I graduated from college and joined the world of work. It was a pretty good recession. It was 1981, and New York was coming apart at the seams. Literally, I think it had just barely escaped formal bankruptcy with its skin teeth. And it certainly wasn't the glamorous place that it was up until recently. It was pretty much a shambles. So that I feel grateful that that's how I came up, because I never expected things to be easy or smooth or fat and rich. Now you made a really interesting point in an email that you sent recently, and this is really a good topic actually, and it's related. That when you set out to learn to be a copywriter, you didn't have the option of taking a $25,000 mentoring program or whatever the hell's going on out there these days. Talk a little bit about that, because people that don't know, Ben's a really good copywriter. He is pretty much the only guy whose emails I open regularly because I'm compelled to, because he's writing headlines. He's not, it's good to know the formulas and know how to crank headlines out. I think that's essential. It's part of the craft. But the real craft of headline writing is to write headlines that no one's ever seen before. That they don't have a defense. It's like, let's use the immune system model since we're in the middle of that. You don't have antibodies, for the headlines that Ben Settle writes. Like, you got to click on them to figure out what the heck is he talking about these days. So how did you become such a formidable copywriter in the absence of $50,000 worth of education?
Well, I will say this is very timely because I actually have an email going out about this in probably two days, or at least partially. And I literally had the proverbial, I'm so broke, I had to scrounge for money on cushions, like literally. And I know you've had to do that. And it's like, and during when that happens, it's, oh, this sucks. It's almost depressing. But then you look back and you're like, that was like the best thing ever that could have happened. Like, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because you just see the laziness, of people who have, and, it's good if you have the resources to invest in stuff, but there's a certain laziness that comes with that. There's a certain, I don't really need to work that hard. Now, here's the analogy I've been using, and that I'll be talking about in a few days. And I wish it was an analogy, and I wish it was not true in some ways, but it is true, and I have to be honest about it. And that is, when I was in middle school and high school, every year I let myself get talked into joining the wrestling team because my brother was really good. The coaches all thought I'd be just as good because he's my brother, right? And turned out I was faster and more naturally skilled at it than him. They all would agree, like by leaps and bounds. But he worked 1,000 times harder. Like, he was obsessed. Like, this guy, is all the differences I've had with my brother over the years. I will always give him this. Dude worked his ass off. Like, he was really good. I remember one time he got beat so bad that it was like a technical, loss. Like, you just got beat by so many points, they just end the match. And then he spent all that week just busting his ass, and then he did that to the same guy the next week. He worked hard. Now, I did not work hard at all because I had natural attributes, I guess, that, I thought I could just get away with dogging it. I didn't really enjoy it. And so I didn't work hard at it. And so my record was abysmal, embarrassingly abysmal. All I really wanted to do is get the season over every year so I could eat again. You had to lose weight a lot in wrestling. Yeah. And I hated it. But here's the thing, years later, when it came time to learn copywriting, I had no money. Those old, as those old sports coaches, their lessons will stay with you. And I remember that coach always saying, I don't expect you guys to be the best. All I care is that you go out there and outwork the other guy. If you outwork the other guy, you're going to win more times than you lose, and probably even go the distance. Because in wrestling, the formula is real simple. It's like, if you win the first period always goes to the most skilled and talented wrestler. And if I didn't win in the first period, I usually lost.
Okay.
The second period goes to whoever has the best conditioned, the best conditioned athlete. And the third one goes to just whoever wants it the most, because it's like the most exhausting thing in the world. It's 6 minutes out there. And so that lesson, I remember consciously thinking this early on. Okay, all I have is this book by Dan Kennedy, Ultimate Sales Letter, and I had read some Gary Halbert stuff, from his free website. And I knew Michael Stenoff at the time, and he sent me this speech Gene Schwartz gave, which I'm sure a lot of people have heard it. And that's pretty much all I had. And I would just dogmatically listen to these things and read these things over and over, at least 10, 20, 30 times, probably by the time I was done. I would practice constantly. I had this job duplicating videotapes at the time, so I had the second shift. So I'd get my work done real fast, and I'd sit there and copy ads out by hand, and I'd be working on whatever little client jobs I could get and studying the books. And sometimes while people were, most people would be at lunch or on their breaks, I'd actually go out to the car and I'd be studying this stuff. And I just knew that I may not be the best copywriter, but I will always outwork whoever that was my attitude. I'm like, I can do it with this. I love this. I didn't really enjoy wrestling, but I love copywriting. And so whatever talent, whatever skills, whatever attributes I have, I really do trace it back to just outworking people. And even my contemporary of the time when I got into this business, a lot of them were better writers than me, but I've watched and I've progressed way past a lot of them just because I work harder. And there's no other real reason than that.
Hmm. And let's talk about another big, I think, important decision that you made. First decision was to work harder than anybody. Can't go wrong there. And making that decision, you don't necessarily have to have every advantage and every tool in the world. In fact, if you a few good books are a few good books.
Absolutely.
You're a big advocate of reading and rereading and rereading the good books, because I'm listening to the same. This is not a bookcase, but it's an audio. I'm listening to the same audio. This has got to be the 10th time I've listened to it, and I'm still hearing sentences that I swear weren't in the original version. I'm like, where was my brain when he said that, Hey, by the way, just for my ego gratification, what's the best business book you've ever read?
The best business book I've ever read is Ken McCarthy's System Club Letters, but you may have been dethroned.
Oh no! We'll talk about that on another call.
No, but not in a bad way. Not. I swear, it's not in a bad way at all.
I had a good run. I had a good run, didn't I? It lasted many years.
Yes, I still think you've won because I've only read this other one once. So yours, I think, at least 30 or 40 times. So I think I'm talking about something that was a little bit different. I wouldn't even say it competes with it. Actually, it's more like complementary. But
okay.
Anyway, yeah.
But anyway, that always tickles me that you say that, and then it's because it made me reread the book, and
that's good stuff, man. It really is.
Well, I had to dig deep. It was at someday I'll tell the whole story, but it was at a time in my life when I was forced by circumstances to really dig deep and to figure out what really mattered and what didn't matter and what I valued and what I didn't value, and if this was my last will and testament, what would I tell the people that I really wanted to survive, thrive, and succeed. And so that was the mindset I always like to say it's like Gary Halbert's boron levers, except I wasn't in federal prison.
It's very similar in a lot of ways. That's another one of my favorites. And I love it because that's the thing. It's all raw fundamental stuff that you're just not hearing anywhere else. I mean, anywhere. We should hear it, but it's just not out there. I don't know why that is, but I'm glad you wrote it.
Well, we know how important, and we won't beat this dead horse because I think you and I both talk about this a lot, but we should never have a public conversation without affirming it, that this, like everything else, like wrestling, like golf, like playing bridge, like whatever people do with themselves, you got to know what the fundamentals are, and you got to have them so solid that you know them in your sleep. Someone can wake you up out of a dead sleep, and you'll be able to recite them. You got to have them in your bones, and that's just a matter of time. It's not really something you can accomplish in a day or a weekend or a week even or a month. But just to know that those fundamentals are out there, be alert to them, and when you grasp onto one, make sure that you have a methodology for reminding yourself of it all the time, because no matter how complex things get, it's all rooted in how strong your foundation is. But let's talk about the second. One of the other things that you did that's different than a lot of copywriters, which is that you've transitioned. Another word could be escaped from the world of client work. Now, I was personally so maladjusted to the idea of client work. I couldn't have done it even if you put a gun to my head and I hadn't eaten in 20 days and you were offering me Twinkies. I'm unable to do it. I don't know. It's a maladjustment. But a lot of people get stuck in the writing for client, and that might be a good. I say stuck. Hey, some people make it work fantastically, but there is another world out there, and that does not involve clients. And you are a great exemplar of that world for writers. I want to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, first I'll say this thing, because I think you're onto something when you say it. Maybe for some people that's great, because about, I don't know how many years ago, 6 years ago maybe, Agora Financial flew me in to teach at their offices. I mean, they do that a lot. It's not, there's a lot of great people that they'll bring in to teach, and I was really happy and honored they even did that for me. But when I was there, It's really funny because I started talking to some of the copywriters there, including they were all pretty much on my list. I mean, I didn't realize so many Agora people were like reading my stuff. It's kind of funny, but they they were talking to me, and I'm like, you guys have all this talent. You guys have all this like in this market that you're in. All that. Have you guys ever thought of just kind of doing your own thing? And more than one of them. And then this happened again when I spoke at AWAI's boot camp that a couple years later. I talked to more Agora copywriters. This is what what Agora does, for better or worse. And I have to hand it to them because I think that I know this is deliberate. It has to be. Where they'll tell you, well, I would, but I make such good royalties here. They pay me enough that I just rather just stay here. It reminds me of that scene in the movie Jerry Maguire when he's trying to get everyone to go with him, and the one girl goes, well, I would, but I have a raise coming up.
Right.
And so for better or worse, Agora does a good job. But I even had this one customer. I don't know if he want me to name him, but his name's Ryan. There's probably several Ryans there. And he said he gave me partial credit for why he does like $900,000 a year just in royalties working for Agora. I can't really blame him,
Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah, so so I don't know. I'm like you though. Like I was able to do it while I did it, but I'm glad I did it just because of the experience. And I've learned some really good. I learned a lot of interesting things working for other and really rabid markets like self-defense and golf and weight loss. And I would never have learned that otherwise. But ultimately, I just want to be my own client. I'm so much happier this way, more productive, and so it's not for everybody. Like it just really isn't. Some people kind of need that. Like I don't want to call it a job, but that's basically what freelancing is.
And then there are people who miraculously blend both, like Bob Bly,
yeah,
and Dan Kennedy. I think those guys are just super, super disciplined. They must come from a different era.
Well, you know what? I coined a phrase for them, and I consider myself in the same group now. Well, no, I am, but I'm not, and I'll explain what I mean. But I think the original guy for this was Gene Schwartz, and I call them alt copywriters because they do both, or they're able to do both. They don't have to do both. I suspect if freelancing dried up for any of them, they'd be okay, and I suspect if their info side dried up, they'd be okay because they're more well balanced like that. But there's something to be said about that. And Bob Bly especially, he loves client work. Like you couldn't take him away from it. He just literally enjoys it. I've had back and forth with him about this. I consider him, a lot of people don't give him the credit, I think, for what he deserves. He really is one of the greatest copywriters probably who ever walked this earth, because this is a guy who's been in more markets probably than anybody. And he wins consistently. And to me, that is true talent.
Yep. And he was one of the original educators teaching other people how to write copy.
Yeah.
In fact, I think one of the first, I don't even think I knew that copywriting was a thing until I saw his book in the bookstore. I can even visualize it. The Copywriter's Handbook or something like that had kind of yellow type on the cover. It was, so that's back in the early 80s. So
it is. And what's so interesting about that is when I graduated college in 98, and I was like, okay, I got to figure something out here. And my uncle, I used to go fax resumes to my uncle's house because he had a fax machine. And he also had a business, and I don't know what he does anymore, but he had a business where he created not catalogs. What's the word I'm looking for here? These they're like little. It's the ad that goes with. I'm having a drawing a blank here. It's the little ad you put in with the ad. Brochures.
Yep.
I don't know why that was drawing a blank.
because we never used them.
We never used them, and I remember asking him about, what's this app? What's this catalog? And what is this brochure thing you do? He goes, well, I learned from this guy named Bob Bly, which had no meaning to me at all until a few years later when I got into copy. I'm like, wow. And so he's definitely been around a while because even for brochure writers, they follow him.
Yeah. So Bob's definitely one of the great educators in the field and a great practitioner. He's got his info marketing business. I haven't looked at it in a while, but last I looked, he had all these different courses and reports. I mean, he's very, very prolific, as are you, which I think is one of the things that is rarely disclosed when people are singing the praises of the info marketing business, which is in fact a great business to be in.
Yeah.
But one of the things they don't want beginners to know, because it might scare them away, is you got to be prolific. Like that's not an option or a nice thing or a way to make extra money. So we know that you have to be prolific. And this may seem blindingly obvious to you, but everybody's got to learn it somewhere. How do you become a prolific writer?
It's I'm going to go back to the first email you ever sent me, which I actually use as an example to prove something in my email client hoard book, which is how to get clients. I'll never forget this. I don't know how you found me. I have no idea. This is like 2005. And you're like, I was at your site. All I know is that you write, which is rare in the copywriting world. And I thought I must be on the right track then. But you know what? I'll tell you what. This is the thing. Everybody, if somebody has to, if it's just brutal for someone to write, maybe they shouldn't be writers.
Yeah.
I love doing it. In fact, I'm writing I'm almost done with this thing. It's my ninth symphony book. It's about my whole publishing model, and it's turning out to be very, very long. And I just sit down. It's my dessert. I eat dessert first. I actually work that thing for a minimum of 30 minutes to an hour a day, just consistently. Mm-hmm. And then I go off and do other stuff, and it's going to be written before I know it here, and it'll be selling before I know it. And it's just consistency. Just showing up every day and just writing. I mean, it seems simple, but there it is.
The everyday thing is huge, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's mandatory because, and that's the thing. The more you write, the easier it gets. The more ideas just flow. I can't even tell you the last time I ever had like a writer's block. I don't have it. If anything, I have too many freaking ideas trying to get out. So, good problem.
Yeah, it's a flow thing, and I forget who gave that great model, but it's a really good model for this and for so many other things in life. Those old-fashioned hand pumps, water pumps on a farm.
Yeah.
And if you've never seen one of those, try to find one and experience this. But if you haven't, I'll describe it. You have to pump that thing like 10, 20, 30 times, and it seems like nothing's going to happen. And then suddenly the water somehow, I guess it makes its way up the pipe, and then just one pump and the water's flowing like crazy. And I find that's the creative process. You got to do that front end pumping. And you make a really good point. Even though the info marketing business is, maybe the best business ever invented.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, it's just ridiculous, right? We're not regulated. We have complete price elasticity. We have infinite leverage. You can serve 1,000 customers as easily as you can serve 10. Easily, it's just there's no, and you can do it out of a 10 by 10 square foot room and have room left over. There's just not that many businesses like that. But you gotta love to write. I mean, if I don't write during the, I mean, I've got to write. I'm like, it would be the most torture for me to not be able to sit down and write and just get it out. So
yeah, absolutely.
So if you are one of those people, now I don't know about you, but when I started writing, I didn't even know about business. I mean, I started when I was a little kid. I didn't know about business. I didn't know about selling. I had no concept that you could write things and people would send you money. I just wrote because I like the same reason I ran. I just loved to run. How about you? Were you a natural writer? Like you just found yourself doing it regardless of whether you were pushed to do it or encouraged?
Well, I liked doing it, but I had to unlearn pretty much everything I thought I knew. Just like a lot of people at copywriting, but I don't know. I'm like you in that. Like it's therapy for me. Like I have to do this. In fact, there's certain things I'm a little slow on the uptake to get to certain ideas. I'm the first to admit it. But man, when I first started studying Matt Fury and he's talking about daily emails, and I said, "Oh my God, this is it." Like I didn't even know because I was being taught by everybody, and including people who, are otherwise very, very smart marketers and copywriters, but they, and I don't want to name names necessarily on this, but I'll just say, for example, Gary Halbert. He was completely wrong about this stuff. He's like, just mail and you have something to say and all that, or you're a list pimp if you do and all that. And, maybe the time when he was doing direct mail, there's something to that. But I mean, you're on my list. I certainly have no, sometimes I send like 7 or 8 in a day on a launch or something. And, it's when you see sales coming in, it's much harder to fight the reality, that, wow, not only does this make money, but people actually want to buy from this stuff when you do it right, and it's not an imposition.
Let's talk about that, because surely there are people that write you indignant emails saying, how dare you crowd my email box with this endless tirade of spam.
Yeah, that's right. They always use the spam word.
Right. And, Gary Halbert had a great metaphor for this, and I'd love to know your take on it. Gary felt that his output was, he called it the great meat cleaver of humanity.
Yeah.
And it's such a profound, that guy was profound, He said, some people are going to love me, some people are going to hate me. And I don't know if he said this, but I don't care. He just worked with the people who loved him. What's your comment and take on that?
Yeah, it's very similar in the sense that, but here's what I've learned to do many years ago. Probably, I think this will be 8 or 9 years ago actually going on this. But so I used to get a lot of complaints like that. It always amused me. They just don't delete it or unsubscribe. Like, why do they have to let me know? Whatever. But, that has almost gone away, believe it or not, because of one thing that I started doing that my friend Jim Yagi suggested I do. Now, he didn't suggest it from an email point of view or a sales point of view, but because he was helping me create a landing opt-in page that would be more friendly to Google AdWords, because I wanted to test AdWords at the time. Mm-hmm. And he's great. He's one of the best in the world at that, and he's a computer scientist, and he understands their algorithms and all this. And he goes, Ben, what you do, and Google will love you for this, is, put a little check mark down there that won't even let them opt in unless they check this box, and they very clear letters that says you're going to get daily promotional emails from Ben Settle. Oh. And like, you'd have to be illiterate at this point to get mad at me, because I'm telling you.
Right.
And it really did cut down a lot. And the lead quality got higher. And I don't know if the opt-ins went necessarily down or not, but I mean, there's no shortage of people joining my list, even though I have it. It's very, very plainly. I want them to see it. I want them, I want to give people the option to tell me no. And it just really cut down. You get every now and then you'll hear from someone, but for the most part, it just doesn't happen.
Hey, speaking of the option to say no, you're a big advocate and a proponent of, and I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Jim Camp.
Jim Camp.
Yes.
Now everybody's trying to get to yes, and everybody's trying to make everybody happy and do win-win deals and tiptoe through the tulips, without, bending a blade of grass. How useful is that approach? And what's your approach to things?
I am firmly in the Jim Camp school. And the thing is, people will treat it like it's some kind of manipulative tactic, right? And I think it backfires on them. But the reality is, there's nothing like brutal honesty.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if you want to be the giant meat cleaver Gary Howard talked about, just be brutally honest, because brutal honesty will, first of all, be very refreshing to a lot of people. Like it's like a shocking amount of people, because at least they know you're not lying to them. But second of all, it brings out what someone really is. And I don't know. I'll try to think of some examples of this real quick. But for example, you've talked to my girlfriend Stefani.
Yep.
At least a few times. I can think of. So we've been dating for about 3 years now and everything. And I can tell you, her and I come from totally different worlds. She comes from the city, New York. I'm a small town Midwestern guy. Now I'm a small town coastal guy in Oregon. and she wanted to come visit me, you know, and I said, look, you're going to hate it out here. I'm just going to tell you, there's no clubs, there's no restaurants, like there's really nothing to do except sit around and pet my dog and maybe go down to the, I live across the street from the ocean, so I go down there. That's fun for about a day. Then most people get, I'm just telling you, you're going to hate it here. I'm just not a fun guy. I'm really not. And all this is true, by the way. I'm like, I am not a fun guy. I don't do stuff. I don't like going out. I just don't like dealing with a lot of people. So all the stuff, right, is just to be brutally honest with her and in a way to get her to say no to me. But, she fought through all that. And now she's like, Ben, you're the funnest guy I've ever hung out with. We literally don't do anything. I don't know how I'm fun. But the point is, she was sold on me because of that. Now, was it a manipulative tactic? No, I was just trying to get her to, I want her to know the facts. And, I use it a lot in business too, in copywriting, emails especially, where I will give all the reasons not to buy from you. I mean, I'm very, very upfront about stuff. And it's not because I'm trying to trick anyone or anything like that. It's because there are a lot of people I simply don't want buying from you. For example, just yesterday, I got this email from a guy who subscribed to email players, and he put in the special delivery instructions on the shopping cart. Please make sure you send me the issue that's described on the website that talks about wherever my headline is, something gurus. And I wrote him back saying, I'm canceling it because you clearly didn't even read the sales letter. It's not even describing the issue. It's not what the sales letter is about. It's about the book that they get. Now, most people would have just taken the sale and said, oh yeah, I got one. I don't want this guy clogging up my customer list. He's not going to read anything. He's not going to do anything I say. I'd rather make room for people who will. And, it's a weird phenomenon, Ken. I'm curious if you've experienced this over the years. And I didn't really believe it existed. And I remember first reading about it way back, like in the late 90s, when I read Dan Kennedy's No BS Time Management book. When he said, and at the time this just seemed ridiculous. Now it doesn't. But he basically said, when you get rid of a toxic customer or client, it just makes room for better ones. Better ones will come in and take over, and you're actually better off. And I have to say, that phenomenon is so true. It's like I want to get rid of people now.
It's weird. It is uncanny. Even on a more simple level, like just slightly, don't go too crazy, but slightly organizing your office and throwing out stuff that's clearly outdated. You're done with it. It's not part of your future. Something about that is very powerful too.
Yeah, there's something going on. I don't know what it is, but I just know that nowadays, and not only do I not mind when people go, I'm like trying to kick them out. It's time to go. But they even ask like a dumb question that could have been answered on Google. I'm like, you need to go. In fact, and here's how it brings out honesty, though. This will really, and it brings out honesty like nothing else I've ever seen. And I'll give you an example. There was this guy last fall, who he subscribed to my newsletter, and then he proceeds to ask me a question that's literally on the sales letter. He already bought, like about when it's shipped and everything. Now, I could have just responded with, it's the first week of the month. But see, I know I want him to be better than that. So I said, it's on the sales page. You need to read that. And then he sends me back this tirade, full of F words and F bombs. And
whoa.
But the beauty of it is this. The best part is that at the end of his tirade, and it was long, and it was funny. It was like, wow, dude, what is wrong with this guy? He puts, love and light. That's his signature or something like that. Like Mr. Love and Light. And I'm like, you just can't even write this book of irony. It was so great. And of course I used it as an example, as an email to sell stuff and all that. But, it brings out truth. There's this one guy on my list. He's a younger guy. He's like in his mid-20s, I think. He's he's doing 6 figures, living in Seattle, living the life. And he started dating this girl. And apparently, and he came for me for advice. He's like, Ben, this girl kind of gives me the cold shoulder sometimes. Sometimes she's interested, sometimes she's not. Sometimes she just ignores my texts and calls. I can't get this girl out of my head. it's making me needy. He read my villains book. He's like, I really need help with this, Ben. How do I not be needy? And I said, all you got to do is go to her and just say, look, you and I we're not good fit. I got some other girl I'm dating now. You and I just be friends, and good luck to you. Basically, just say no to her. Just like give her, you reject her. And he did that. And suddenly she's like texting him every day and telling him all this weird stuff like, oh yeah, she's just been divorced and was sleeping with her boss now. And like all this weird,
oh my God.
Now he really doesn't want her because he finds out she's kind of a hoe. And he doesn't want anything to do with her. And so all of this brutal honesty just brings out the truth in people, and for better or worse. And like in Stefania's case, I I tested her a million different ways like this by just being brutally honest. And, I didn't hear anything I didn't like. But like this is a good for customers too, though, and clients. Brutal honesty will bring out so much truth.
Yep.
Maybe you don't want to hear it sometimes, but it's there to do with what you want, and nobody's doing it anymore. Nowadays, mostly it's convincing people to buy. I just give the opportunity to buy from me. I don't try to sell anybody anymore.
Yeah, it's to me, it's such a weak position to try to persuade somebody to buy.
Yeah.
It's like, well, to use the dating analogy, it's like chasing somebody around and, asking them for a date, even though, they've told you no. It's like, come on, man, forget it. I always feel that what you want to do is, first of all, understand first of all, have value in your offer. The thing's worth buying. Be crystal clear on the value in all its dimensions, which a surprising number of people that sell stuff, sometimes me included, haven't gone through the effort of doing. You're just cataloging all the amazing things, hopefully, that your thing does, right? Having that clear. And then having clear in mind who it's for, who is this going to benefit, and then making sure you lay that all out. Just, that's your job. Your job is not to put people, I love this. I got this from Gary Bencivenga, and I use it all the time. Your job is not to put somebody in a psychic headlock and give them a noogie, to persuade them to give you your, NLP or, all that nonsense. It's to know that, is to have a good proposition, know that it's the right thing for a certain type of person, and then make it crystal clear. And then it really should be the prospect's idea. Like if you're telling the guy why he's 10 reasons he's got to buy now, you've lost. In my opinion, you've lost him. You should be setting it up so that he's coming up with 10 reasons why he's got to buy now on his own. That's always. Yeah,
it's so interesting you brought that up, because one copywriter, I didn't even know he existed until you named him once a long time ago, Doug Deanna.
Oh, yeah.
And fascinated by this guy. So I asked him what meant like 13 years ago. I interviewed him. I'm like, dude, I got to talk to this guy. And I remember him saying a lot of what you just said. He's like, he goes, you sell them by not being pushy, sharing information. But I remember like specifically saying not being pushy, being a professional, and he used this analogy I'll never forget. He said, and he just happened to be buying a car. The dad talked to him like this. I don't know how that worked, but he goes, Ben, I'm going to buy a car today. I have to get a new car, but I'm not shopping for a car. I'm shopping for a salesman. And I thought, wow, man, that like completely changed the way I looked at selling after that. Like, they're not really buying the car. They're buying the salesman. And so, I think that when people realize that, and like Gary Bencivenga, I read his ads. I don't really care what the product is. I just know I want it because he's selling it, So that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I think you're going back to the honesty thing. Some people think, oh, what a great technique.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's not a technique, dude. I'm trying to be clear and honest with people. It's not I found that all the time. I would do something in internet marketing, and there'd be people patting me on the back via email on what a great strategy it is. I'm like, no, I'm just trying to make things clear to people.
What a technique.
I know. It's like I learned it from NLP. It's the clear process or something, whatever. But one thing I've thought, there's this word, a beacon, and I kind of knew what a beacon was, but I never really gave much thought to it. And then I realized when you are clear about what you have to offer, clear about who it's for, clearly laying out the value, being clear about who it's not for, you become like a beacon. You're like this light that people see in the distance, and they either say no or they come towards it. So I'm realizing that every communication is like that. It's like a beacon. And, again, some people are going to, not respond or not get it or not even see it. But there are people for whom that communication will be a beacon that will draw them because of the quality of it. And I don't mean quality good, bad. I mean the nature of it. I don't know. Hope I'm not getting too philosophical.
No,
here.
not at all. In fact, I live on the ocean here. I'm telling you, to a ship lost at sea, that beacon is life or death, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you can't be a beacon in this world by being sort of a milk toasty guy trying to make everybody happy and not offend anybody and address all possible audiences simultaneously. I mean, a beacon kind of has to be somewhere. It has to be on a particular rock or something. It can't be like floating aimlessly in the sea. That's what makes it a beacon, the fact that it's somewhere steady. So I guess the thing I want to say, so a lot of people hopefully listening to this already know your stuff. If they don't, they should go to bensettle.com.
Yeah, that's the place. That's my beacon out there in the internet world.
Okay, there you go. So and you should definitely do this. Oh man, if you're a aspiring or professional copywriter, if you're a business owner who realizes that copy is important, if you're somebody that's still trying to figure it out and you have this inkling that copy is really important, definitely sign up for Ben's stuff. Just reading the emails alone is a masterclass. But the thing I want to tell people is don't ape, APE, Ben. I mean, in other words, Ben has a very specific point of view because he's Ben. He wakes up every morning and there's this guy there, and it's pretty much the same guy, with some variations, and so he's true to that. So you can't just be Ben Settle, but what you can do is figure out who you are, because Ben, you're not creating. I mean, we all dramatize, and it's all showbiz, but you're not like manufacturing some personality type that you have no knowledge or experience or real connection with, right? I mean, you're drawing on Ben Settle as he is.
Yeah, it's definitely, if anything, I might ratchet my personality up a few notches, usually the negative parts of it.
Uh-huh.
But, it's like, it would be like me going out there and trying to write emails about, this crazy, idiotic Fauci guy, the way you do. Yeah. I don't have your knowledge, and like I read your stuff, I'm like, wow, this is cool, but I'm not like trying to, okay, I'm going to go write what he's writing about. Like that would be, insane. You just got to talk. Yeah, it's all about just you. Be you. Don't try to be me or anyone else. I that could be a whole call in of itself. I don't know why people are doing this so much lately, but they just copy people, and it's just dumb. You don't need to do that. Be you.
Yeah, and it takes some time and some confidence and some experience, and you get more confidence in being yourself. But it's something to aspire to. It's something to have as your goal, as your target. Not, oh gee, how can I write the blandest sales copy that will never offend anybody in the world. I mean, you've inspired me. I always kind of took stands because just, for instance, when in the early days of the internet, you kind of had to take a stand because it's hard to believe now, but there was a lot of pushback about whether the internet could become commercialized, whether it should become commercialized, and you really had to have a point of view and stand your ground. So it just became a habit for me. But I think it's a good thing for everybody to aspire to, just to know what you believe. We may be wrong. I love that famous saying. Oh wait, always certain but never in. No, wait a minute. Always. Oh, I can't remember, but never in doubt. Sometimes wrong. Occasionally wrong, but never in doubt. And you don't want to be that guy that is saying things based on no knowledge, no research, no thought. That's not what we're talking about. but you want to be a clear beacon. And let's talk about this personality thing versus corporate selling.
Oh, yeah.
This is huge, and this is hard. This is tricky because it's easier to hide. It's easier to be in the shadows, and like the Great Oz in the Wizard of Oz, where the guy's hiding behind the curtain. And
that sounds like all the I am gurus right there, basically.
Yeah.
In one analogy.
Yeah, and people really they connect with people. Or characters. I mean, if it, I always think of the Pillsbury Doughboy. I don't know if that even exists anymore.
I don't know.
They didn't say, here's the best flour. I don't even know what Pillsbury dough is, but here's the best flour in America, and here's 10 reasons why you should buy it. No, they created this doughboy character who jumped around, and you could poke on his stomach and he'd giggle, and another example is Aunt Jemima. What was that? Pancakes? Is it pancakes or pancake syrup? I don't even remember.
I think it's the syrup.
It's the
I
syrup.
haven't seen that in a while. Yeah.
Yeah. Uncle Ben's rice. They didn't say Great Carolina rice. They came up with a guy and a face and a character. Now, why do they do that? Because they couldn't think of anything else? No, because we're made to bond, to connect with people, even if that person is a caricature or a cartoon. So.
Yeah.
So when you're now, have you had any experience with helping somebody make that leap? Somebody that had a product and was just completely 100% product centric in all their copy, and got them to get out from behind the curtain and say, "Hey, I'm the guy that makes this thing, and here's all my foibles and all my weird hobbies and strange opinions."
Actually, quite recently, my business partner in the mobile app space, Troy Broussard, I think it kind of changed his entire, because he's just been so focused on creating software. And I said, you got to nobody cares about that, but why don't you go tell people you're a software supremacist? This is this is his thing. Like, he eats, breathes, he thinks software is the answer to humanity. Like I think email is. And I'm like, that's you. And then, I got him writing emails where he's a little bit cantankerous, because he is. I mean, he's just like this old ex-Navy vehicle engineer and all.
Oh, wow. I didn't. You know what? I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't even know that about Troy. And knowing that, I'm already more endeared to him than I've ever have been. I have something I can hang my hat on now.
Oh, it's and like all the advertising I've written for us, that's what I lead with now, because it's like the thing that makes him stand out. Like there's a lot of software people out there, but how many are ex-Navy nuclear engineers? It's and I get that. I get that completely from the book of Ben Savanga, right? The whole proof thing. But I've done that, and I have this book called Brand Barbarian that I launched last year, and people are emailing. Like, of all I never thought anybody would care what I thought about branding. I just kind of wrote it because I had the content together, and I'm like, well, might as well. I want to have a well-rounded suite of books. And that was my highest selling book ever. And it's the most testimonials ever. And it's because people really struggle with this. Like, it's a problem. And what you realize, once you tell them that, your brand is just everything that you do, say, have done, will do, everything you think, every idea you have, every opinion you have, it's all part. Your ancestors, your kids, your pets, everything. Any part of your life that comes in contact with theirs is part of your brand, for better or worse. And they start thinking, wow. And I'm like, yeah, you should have a narrative. The media manipulates people wickedly with a narrative. You could actually do it for good.
There you go.
So it's stuff like that. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I love the whole topic of branding, which I think because so many direct marketers hate it. I think it's fascinating. The brand of what we talked about this. Remember last year we were talking about Kim Kardashian is not the best Twitter copywriter in the world. She is a powerful brand. When she sends a tweet out, she gets paid $1 million or whatever by a brand just to promote them. That's not a function of copywriting. There's a lot more behind that.
Yeah, and let's always remember that this is business, and it's about making money. So if the process of building a brand helps generate money, why would you neglect it or scorn it? I think the reason people do that is there was a time when people didn't have exposure to direct marketing stuff. They didn't educational stuff, and so they came super brainwashed and super with a lot of baggage that they had absorbed from Coca-Cola or Pepsi ads, and they were trying to do that, and their minds were kind of polluted. So I think in the early days people just had to slap them, out of the
totally understandable.
Times change and conditions change, but the branding thing is really powerful because that's actually what a direct marketer like yourself, or like what I do, or like what you and Troy are working on. We're using direct response mechanisms all the time. We want to have great headlines. We want to have a crystal clear call to action. We want to make sure we've checked off all those boxes. But the cumulative effect of all the messages that we send to our readers, we want it to be creating a brand. Why not? Why not get a 2-for-1? I'm creating sales today, and I'm strengthening and broadening and deepening my brand connection with my readers at the same time. So they're not mutually exclusive.
No, I don't know if you're an advocate of, or if you think he's actually. I'd be just your opinion on this. I'm just curious, but like there's this website Mercola.com, which is like all natural health doctor guy out of, and I've been buying stuff from him off and on over the years. And I remember I had to buy a supplement not too long ago, and there were so many to choose from. This was on Amazon. I'm like, I don't know which one's real. I don't know which one has the bull crap reviews, but this guy's name was on it. I'm like, well, I'll just get that one.
Yeah, exactly.
So there you go.
That's how it works. That's how it works. And in your case too, like, like all of us, you started with your first product, and that could have been defining. Okay, this is Ben Settle, and that's it. It doesn't go any further than this. But you just you put out the brand Barbarian. You put out all kinds of disparate stuff that just keeps growing. And the fact that somebody already knows and trusts you when you come out with something new, they don't need to start the process all over again and say, well, I wonder if this book is any good. Let me read the ad. What is Ben? Ben says it's important, and I kind of get that it's important. The last 10 things I got for him were great. Sale complete.
Oh, man. And as a copywriter, I got to tell you, as someone who spends a lot of time on my copy, probably more than I should, that pisses me off because they don't even read it. Can't you just read it at least and humor me?
But that's the goal, though, right? To get to the point where they see, oh, it's from Ben. Let's just do it. I'm kind of that way with Dan Kennedy too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Kennedy's doing it, all right. But interestingly enough, even to this day, he's been in business 40 years plus. When he sits down to write a sales letter, he's got to ring every bell and blow every whistle. He can't. You have to do it. You have to do it all in every sales presentation, because some people are going to want to read the whole thing. Some people may be new to you, or they've never seen your stuff before, or they've only had one experience with you. So you still have to do that full court press of selling every time.
Yeah, a few years ago, I spoke at this AWAI copywriter, not their boot camp, this little intensive they did. And the recently departed Clayton Makepeace, who was one of the greatest copywriters ever walked this earth, he was teaching there. And I remember, I was listening to his thing so that when I talked, I could maybe play off something, And I remember he sent the slides of his latest financial promotion around everyone. I think this was like 90 or 100 slides. It was huge. It's like this long thing. And he goes, but you know what? They're sold before they see a single slide here, because of all the other stuff we do. And I thought, well, I must be on the right track then, because if he's doing it, there's a reason for that. And I never really asked him about it, but you just know, like, it's all the reasons you just said. Some people still need that reassurance.
Yep. And then we have to go kind of like double back to this fundamental principle too. You'll put yourself out there, and there will be people that just hate you. Just freaking hate you.
If we do our job right.
And that's so interesting. I might have stepped on that. Say that again. if you would.
Hopefully, if we did our job right, that's what we want.
So to you, when you get the hate mail and the
I love it. I frame it. I love it.
And I have to say, it was a transformative experience for me to read your book on, what was it, dealing with trolls.
Oh, the copy troll. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, how many people live in terror of being attacked by a troll? And you love it. You put out troll bait. You hope you play.
I do.
You blow one of those dog troll whistles that only a troll can hear.
I love that.
Yeah. It's like, what a liberating, powerful 180 degrees attitude that is, and it dovetails perfectly with the idea of be yourself, know who you are, know your value. Be a beacon for what you are, whatever that may be, because you can't. Here's the thing: you can't change yourself, so you might as well market it.
Oh, absolutely. I got a real story for you on this. You'll love this. So this was about a week ago or something. I was selling that bargain bin of bonuses thing, and I did exactly. I'm going to call it the troll whistle. I love that. Okay. But I did a troll whistle email, I will give you all the credit for that. A hat tip to Ken McCarthy. That's a great one. But I wrote this email knowing it would piss some trolls off, where there was this news story on Yahoo that was saying, emails are destroying the planet because of the servers and all that. And it was like the whole email was just mocking that whole thing. Like and I even just put the subject line, why I'm turning the world into Mordor or something. Yeah,
like right.
And I got a reply to that one that was a huge, like a wall of text paragraph long, from someone saying how boring the email was and how disappointing it was. And I'm like, it's so boring. You literally just spent, I don't know how much time writing me back. And that's how you know you got him. And that email, by the way, what he sent me, which I don't know if I'd call it a troll email, but it certainly was hate mail. I'm going to use it to sell the July issue of Email Players because it talks about that kind of stuff. So these people are handing you money. And when you realize that, it's like, why would I not want more? I almost want to thank them. I mean, I never get mad at them or anything. Because, anyone who's a troll is automatically emotionally not well-adjusted as it is. So it's like, am I going to let someone like that have any effect? I mean, why would I? They're great. I love trolls.
Well, great. It's such an important lesson because, for this to work, you got to put yourself out there, and when you put yourself out there, you are a beacon, and lots of stuff is going to be coming at you. But the great thing is when you find that tribe or flock or herd, or I like the word tribe, but whatever word you use. It's a wonderful thing, and it not only is it financially wonderful. Because, for instance, if you have a business or a product idea, you already know where you're going to sell it.
Yeah, you don't have to worry. Even my fiction, like I go to my main list. I just bribe them with something I know they want, just so they'll buy the book and drive my rankings up, so people will see it on Amazon. Bribes are great. And they're totally ethical. Nobody's getting hurt. It's not like I'm lying to anybody. I'm just here. I'll give you this if you buy that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given folks an hour of profundity that they can really profit from for a long time. And I'll be the first to say that it took me a long time to figure this stuff out that we're talking about on this call. It wasn't, I didn't figure it out the first year. Interestingly enough, I don't know if this is so with you too, but my understanding of some of these principles gets refined as time goes on. I'm better able to, really grasp these things and really use them even better with more skill. It just doesn't seem to come. I don't seem to come to the end of skill improvement.
Yeah, that never stops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, great. Well, Ben, thanks for spending the time with us during this interesting period. Again, I want to timestamp this, May 27th, 2020, for the future archaeologists, the last two sane people. on Earth.
No, right? What will they think 100 years from now?
We found an example. They weren't all crazy, but actually, I have to say this. I've taken a very strong stand with all this stuff, and gotten some, predictable flack. But what's wonderful, and it's sort of proof of concept, is a lot of people are coming out of the woodwork who, we just haven't communicated in 10, 15, some cases 20 years.
Wow.
Because there was no reason to. We did what we did, and they still read my stuff. Obviously, they've stayed on the list all these years.
Yeah.
But they're like, hey, yeah, remember me? I was the guy that didn't have an idea what the internet was. Now I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and so by having something clear to say, it's actually been a boon to my connection with the people that get my email. And I imagine you're finding the same experience too.
Yeah, you never know. Every day is interesting like that, and I was really happy to hear when you're talking about how you were getting all these people leaving, but then your sales were going up.
Yeah,
it was like perfect example of all of this, like in like one little sentence. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, and talking about technique and not technique, there's no technique here. I'm just really concerned what's happening to my country and my neighbors and my fellow small business people. I'm just really concerned. Yeah. And so I feel I see things, so I must speak. I didn't think, if I speak, I'm going to increase the size of my business 20%. I mean, in fact, I thought, well, you're probably shooting yourself in the foot here, Ken, but, screw it.
This might be a fitting then to what because we started and you asked a question about what my favorite business book was, remember?
Yep.
And it is your book. I don't mean to say it was dethroned, but there's something that competes with it. Let's just put it this way. It holds a very similar spot. Okay.
Fair enough.
Because it's not a business book. That's why it's a biography of Steve Jobs. And it's so good. And you guys think a lot alike. So there's a lot of similarities there. I don't think you're I don't think you're as like crazy as he was or anything. But my point is.
Ben, you haven't seen me behind closed doors.
Maybe you are. I don't know. But I mean, I haven't read your biography yet. I'm sure it'll be full of stuff like that too. But you guys are both like early computer guys, not. But I'll say this: there's something that he would be talking about when it came to Apple, and it's very close to what you're just saying. Where he's like, you've got to find a wrong you want to right, and then that just drives you. It absolutely drives you, and it tracks. In his case, investors, and in our case, customers, and people are looking for that. They're looking to be inspired by someone who will stand up and say, "This is not right. This is wrong. And here's why." And not like a ranting, like virtue signaling way, right? Like most people do, but like it's actually like a burning gut. You could not talk about it if you wanted to. And so, we get to use direct marketing, which lets people do this. No tricks needed. It's really amazing.
That reminds me of something that I hadn't thought about in a long time, but I'm gonna drop a product name here. My advanced copywriting info marketing course. One of the things that I came to when I was developing that is I realized if you want to succeed in the largest sense in all dimensions, it's what you just talked about, and I call it having a mission.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about a bullshit mission statement or something that you make up, but I'm talking about it's like a military mission. You're going in there and you may not come out alive, but you know what? It's got to be done. That kind of feeling. And this kind of ties into everything we've talked about on this call. Maybe the best thing people could do, forgetting technique, forgetting copywriting, forget direct marketing, forget the whole thing, but spend the time with yourself to figure out what that mission is for you.
Oh, absolutely. Dude, I think that's the whole missing thing for most people. And they go, and then this is the question that you'll get if we don't clarify this. Well, how do I figure out my mission? And I'm like, well, you got to make it. I can't tell you that. It's like that's your mission. Until you find what your mission is, to figure out what your mission is. Because when it hits you, you won't have to be told to write every day. You won't have to motivate yourself. Like, I'm pretty sure, Ken, you don't have to be like prompted to write about all this crap going on right now. Like,
you literally have to tie a wild horse to me to keep me from doing it. I mean, I'm driving Bettina crazy. She's always sure that I'm on my last thread, that this is the end. You know, she's gonna have to pull the booby hatch and commit me. Yeah, no, I can't stop. I just can't stop.
Well, I hope you write a health book someday. I would love to read it because you're like a fountain of knowledge on this stuff. It's great.
I think this whole insanity has made me realize that people really need health education. Like people just don't get the most fundamental things, and because of that, they're easily terrified. I'm starting to think maybe what I thought was a sideline, not really serious. I mean, I'm serious about it for my own studies.
Oh yeah,
but no, I think people definitely need it, and I think one of the things that might help in terms of forming your mission is it's not about you. It's about, like you said it, there's a wrong out there you want to right. In other words, there's something going on in the world where you see that it could be much, much better for people, right? I mean, the world isn't a vacuum. You don't want to theoretically make the world better, right? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But you realize there's something that's injuring people or something that's holding people back or something that's not allowing people, whatever that thing is. It's people. It's not just, I got a mission to make myself rich and famous. I mean, that's tedious,
Yeah.
But there's something that you want to bring to the world because maybe it benefited you, maybe you find it endlessly fascinating, whatever it is. And then, to take this really full circle, you can start where you started or where I started, i.e. knowing nothing, having no resources, finding one book, and that's your first step, right? I have a feeling you didn't come out of the womb and the next thing you did was start writing 16-page sales letters. I just have a feeling but that it didn't work that way.
That doesn't.
Right? So everybody we see, no matter how accomplished they seem to be or how good they are at whatever they did, they made that thing that they're doing. They made it one brick after another. I got to throw this out because it's so wonderful. There's this guy that I was working with, Martin Atkins, has such an interesting background. He was a drummer for Nine Inch Nails, and he worked with Johnny Rotten and all these crazy people. And he teaches people how to promote their bands now. And he's really good at it. He's really good at it. I sometimes have to remind him how good he is at it because we all forget. He said that he was on this tour and he went to China and he was at the Great Wall of China, and he was just, I've never been there, I have no idea, but apparently it's awe-inspiring. It's mind-boggling. Like here we are in this modern age where all things are possible, and you realize this wall is more amazing in scope and size than anything you've ever seen, and it was made by guys that rode horses. Like there were no brick factories, and so his brain was just exploding. And then this is the interesting part, because he was a bricklayer himself as a kid, and as he came from a family of bricklayers, suddenly he says it dawned on him they built this one brick at a time.
That's how else are they going to do it?
Yeah. So some people listening to this call might be at the very beginning. Some people might be in a position where they've got to reinvent themselves from scratch. Have faith and confidence and good cheer that anybody you see out there that's doing something well, they had to do it one brick at a time, just the way you'll do it.
Oh, that's and I love stuff like that because it's very fundamental and it's all true, and it should make it easier for people to realize that you don't have to do it all in one day. I'm still working on this. I feel like I'm still a newbie.
Exactly. You know what? I feel the same way. Every day there's something to learn. There's something to reevaluate. There's something to discover. There's some advice somebody gave you 10 years ago that you blew off that suddenly you realize is the wisest thing anyone's ever said, but it took you 10 years to see it. Yeah, there's no end to it. And I guess we should also say this. I know you'll concur. If it seems hard at times, it's because it is.
There you go. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it the way I see it.
Exactly. So don't give up. Don't be discouraged that it's hard. Don't be discouraged that the road seems 1,000 miles long. Just put one brick on top of another every day. Keep learning. You don't need, if you have extremely limited resources, believe me, there's more than enough, assuming we can get into a library.
Yeah.
And, I'm recording this on May 27th, 2020, where you can't get into a U.S. library, but someday we'll be able to get into the libraries again. And there's plenty of books, that can help you magnificently for free. So Ben, everybody go to bensettle.com. It'll be one of your best educational experiences to get his wild and crazy emails. They're often the highlight of my day. Just the headlines alone. Are a masterpiece. So,
I'm glad to hear that. I really am.
All right. Well, we'll catch you around the internet.
All right. Thank you, Ken. I appreciate it.
Okay. Take care.